Hi guys, it's Saturday, which means me, Matt. Interactions with cisgender men. I've always found interactions with queer or aware men easier if they know that I'm trans or if they know that I'm not trans. The difficult bit there is if they're guessing, if they're not sure, and I don't like it when people guess that I'm trans. If they already know that I am, then we have a conversation and that's there and it doesn't matter too much. If they know that I'm not, despite the fact that I am, then we have a conversation where it's not there and that doesn't matter. What I don't like with queer or aware men is it being the elephant in the room. In general though, and I said queer rather than LGBT for a reason, they tend not to be misogynistic, and that seems to be the thing I have the most trouble with men. When I'm not out to men, I actually find interacting with them easier, because I don't feel like I have all these expectations on me as a trans man to interact in a certain way. I can just relax into my interaction. I can just do whatever feels most comfortable. And then there's men I can relate to on some level. For example, if I'm interacting with men who are into academics, then we talk about the academic interest that we share, and we get really passionate about it, we get all flaily arms, and oh my god, and that was a bit gay of me, wasn't it? Anyway, my boyfriend's sniggering. We get all passionate about it, and I don't have to think about trans stuff at all, because it's simply not relevant. And then there's interactions with misogynistic men. Ugh. Ew. Now, I know that as a man I can be misogynistic. I try my absolute hardest to eradicate misogyny in the way I speak, the way I act, and the way I think. But it's still possible, and I know misogynistic trans men. Being trans does not exclude me from being a misogynist. And I don't like interacting with misogynistic men, ever. And I don't like misogynistic men. Muh. I've had a couple of really nasty situations interacting with misogynistic men where I've really felt that I haven't known how to act for fear of either being misogynistic myself by acting to protect women, for example when there was threats of violence implied against some women and I just plain didn't know what to do. So in the end me and some other men made eye contact and decided that if it became any more violent we'd act. And just situations where I'm in a group of men who are talking in a very misogynistic fashion. I can't do those interactions. I want to be like, oi guys, you know what? You think I'm one of you? Well, I was born with a cunt, so shut the fuck up. But I tend not to. I don't think that'll go down very well. So I just try and call them out as best I can, and end up feeling really uncomfortable with the whole situation. Now, there's one other group of men that I haven't discussed my interactions with, mostly because it's a very small group. Group of one, in fact. That's my boyfriend. That's his hand waving at you. I can poke him, and he sometimes makes noises. Beep. Yeah, he's in a noisy mood today. He's giggling again. Beep. When we started dating, it was quite difficult for us both. I was all messed up, but we'll not talk about that. He had never dated trans men before. He had dated 2 trans women before, but that was pre-transition. He'd always dated men who he believed to be cis men. Fair? Mm-hmm. That was an agreement. And he wasn't honestly quite sure how to deal with my body. We met online, basically, and got to know each other there, and he was a bit worried that, to put it crudely, he'd be faced with my body and wouldn't be able to get it up. Because my body was still very feminine, I was very preety, 2 years preety. And so that was difficult for him at first. And then he got used to it, pretty much. And he got quite fond of it. Ooh, squishy! Kind of fond of it. He's giggling. And his next worry was, oh god, how am I going to deal with it when your body changes? I like your body now. But I think since I've started tea, he's gotten used to that as well, because he's seen me growing in myself and becoming so much happier with changes to my body that he's become a lot less worried about how he'll react to my body changing. So I asked him how he thought my interactions with cisgender men, other than him, because he doesn't really count because he's cuddly, have he's giggling again, have changed. And he basically summed it up as that I've gone from wanting to be socially recognised as male and trying to force my actions to meet that, to just being socially recognised as male and not needing to worry. And I think both the interactions with cisgender men that I mentioned as difficult happened when I wasn't quite used to being socially recognised as male. I still thought I had to force it and didn't quite realise that it would actually just happen. And the last bit I'm going to come to is the idea of alpha male. I don't mean that in a misogynistic sense, I'll start with. I think that any group can have its alpha, and simply that in all male groups there tends to be a man who will become an alpha male in that group, purely because the group is all male. I've been in groups that are primarily male with an alpha female, and that's also absolutely fine. But the concept of alpha male is discussed quite a lot in discussions of masculinity. Now, my boyfriend is often quite an alpha male, and he said, he asked me whether it would be difficult for me to be an alpha male, because I try and be so aware of misogyny. And I pointed out that so does he, but he pointed out that he's got a lot of other privilege that goes unchecked, and that he doesn't necessarily think about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you guys with this thought. Is it possible to become an alpha male in a group while being completely aware of all of your privilege? Thank you, and good night. Good morning.